So here we have Topspin, a robot in disguise, more than meets the eye. Generation 1 Transformer, Autobot, Jump Starter, member of the Wreckers. But for some reason, he has a lot of friends. And you'll see why I say this very shortly. So, this was a recent pickup from eBay. And hilariously, I once made this guy the offer of a certain amount of money for this one. He rejected it. And then about 6 weeks later, he made me exactly the same offer because I was probably the only bugger still watching it. So, there you go. But this guy, you can see, is very, very clearly based on the same mould as Topspin. However, he is actually substantially bigger than Topspin. I don't know if that's really apparent, if I hold them up for you. So, as you can see, very, very, very similar moulds overall. But the one on the left has clearly been scaled up. But you can see, the shoulders are virtually identical. The head is pretty much identical. The wings, very, very similar. Not joined up legs though. So this guy can actually move his legs independently of each other. But when he folds over, he doesn't fold over in quite the same way because he doesn't have the sort of the back pieces here on his legs that Topspin does. So he does look a little bit different when he's folded. But otherwise, you can see that they are basically exactly the same toy. This guy's got no distinguishing features apart from he used to belong to Gavin Tutt. I've just noticed. Sorry, data protection people. I have no idea if they're living or dead. So apologies. But yes, apparently he was Gavin Tutt's Topspin rip-off, knockoff toy. So as you can see, I actually wonder if there was something missing here. Perhaps he did used to have something else there because I don't know. But so there's that. But that's not that isn't the end of the story, because when I was at good old Doncaster Toy Fair, he's not really jump starting overly much these days, it has to be said. And I don't really want to force him to jump start if he doesn't want to. I'm trying to remember how to do it. There we go. This is not where the story ends, however, bizarrely. I think I'd seen this one before, not physically, but I knew it existed. But then at Doncaster Toy Fair, as you might have seen in my video haul from there, I also came across this chap, and he's motorised. But it's another. I thought perhaps originally it was going to be this one blown up, and maybe he might be. Maybe he is. I remembered him being slightly bigger, but actually his head sculpt is different. Let me just move this Topspin out of the way. So I'm just having a really hard look at this now. I would say that there are subtle differences though, even between these two. I think he's bigger because they've built up his feet to put the motorized one on. But if you took that off, he might almost be the same mold. Although his fists are slightly different. Yeah, his arms are slightly. There are subtle differences between the two, and I'm sure you can see them for yourself. But there are things that are absolutely identical, and yet things that are also that little bit different. Overall, size-wise, they're pretty much the same, but it looks like somebody's tweaked little elements of them. This guy is almost nearer to Topspin, in some respects. I'm just having a really close look at the arm, but even then, Topspin's slightly different to him as well. It's just, I don't know, I just find it curious that there are three that are so similar to one another. And this guy, when he goes over, he's different again because he's got this sort of funky spaceship look to him. So again, they went down a sort of slightly different route with this one compared to the other two. It reminds me a little bit of that spaceship that Michael Jackson transforms into in Moonwalker. That's a super obscure reference, but if you know the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. So it's just this one of those sort of curious quirks that clearly I don't even know if Topspin came first. I mean, he's clearly the one who's found fame, and the other ones are all the sort of the wannabes. but he's also the smallest of the three. So it's just kind of odd that they would have a completely separate mould for him, and yet sort of recycle it at a different scale for these other two. So he is decidedly curious. I'll just line them all up for you there. So it's kind of, yeah, it's just kind of odd, isn't it? So again, I guess it's just that they must have just been able to tweak the mould a little bit just to try and avoid potentially any issues. But they've all come up with sort of subtly different ways of dealing with exactly the same sort of fold over robot concept. I do like, I've always liked Topspin, even though his legs are sort of glued together, so you can't move them independently, which is always a bit daft. But they just did that, I think, because then it meant he would always sort of fold over and click in a uniform fashion, I suppose. But yeah, he was definitely one of my favourites, and too big to fit in your pocket, but just a nice size for your hand. And not too expensive and not too complicated to transform in a hurry either, of course, which is always a bonus. So yeah, one genuine, two derived in some way, shape or form, one powered, two not. I mean, just, different colour schemes on all of them, different stickers on all of them. So who knows what their origins were originally, but somebody somewhere is going to sue somebody. That's it. Do like and subscribe. Cheers for now.